Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today for the Edge Background Image Manager training webinar. Today's session is going to be recorded, and the recording will be sent out within a day after the webinar. And then also we have a new YouTube channel, which will be included in an email that is sent along with the recording webinar too. But that includes a YouTube channel that we created for this, so users can go back and look at that YouTube channel. During the webinar, all lines have been muted, and we have some moderators here who will be answering questions while Davis is presenting. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Davis and he can get started. Thanks, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, Tammy. Hello and welcome to another Edge webinar with the Estimating Edge. As Tammy said, my name is Davis Matthews, and I'm going to cover the background image manager in the Edge. So there are a few different places where you can load an image into a bid. The first location is as you create a bid for the first time, you'll click that blue plus and put in the important information for your bid. You'll notice you have this blue Add Images button. You can click on that and that will create the bid for you. So once that's created, it will take you to this view, and this is the Manage Images view. You will then navigate to wherever those images are stored on your computer, like so. One important piece of information regarding this is that the image does have to be stored locally on your computer, meaning that you can't pull it directly from a cloud-based service like Google Drive or OneDrive without downloading it first. Now, once you've pulled the image in, you'll notice you have a few options. By clicking on the image preview on the left, it will pop up large in this middle panel for you. You have the option of rotating it 90 degrees counterclockwise, clockwise, as well as renaming the image by selecting on this dropdown and typing in what you'd like to rename it to. So I'm going to just rename this Roof Drawing Webinar. And then I have the option to add this as a page in my bid. I also have a few more options here on the left. By selecting the image checkbox here, I can select this Manage Selected Images button up at the top. A few options will pop up. I have the option to create it as a page, a CC page, or both, as well as change the color and bit depth. Doing this will directly influence the resolution of the image. This color option is especially useful if your roof plans have color, or if you take a screenshot directly from Google Earth or any other satellite image of a roof. One thing to note though, that this color option will increase the file size of the image, so it could potentially slow the Edge down if you load in a lot of images and select the color option for each one. Once you are done, you can click Save, and after you've loaded in your image, you can click Continue in the bottom right. Now this isn't the only place to add an image in the Edge. You could access that same Manage Image view here at the Scenarios breadcrumb, here at the Sections breadcrumb as well, and finally at the Pages breadcrumb of a bid, all by selecting on this blue Manage Images icon. By clicking on that icon, it will pull up a new window that showcases the images that you've already loaded into the job, as well as give you the option to load in more images. So we call this the root folder. To add an image to an existing job, you can just click this blue Add Image button up at the top. Doing so will pull up that same view that I just showed you in the beginning. You'll navigate to where the image is stored, and you can bring in one or multiple images at a time by holding down the Control key on your keyboard. You'll see by doing so, I'm able to select these 3 images, and I can open all 3 of them and bring them in. Once I've done that, I'm actually going to exit this screen by clicking Continue again in the bottom right. By doing so, it's still loading these images into this Manage Image view. You'll notice that there are some icons to the right of each image that I've loaded in. Starting with this pen and paper, this will allow me to change the description of this image. So if I want to completely rename this and put the address, I could go ahead and do that. I'll rename it 123 Abbey Road and click Save. I have the option to delete the image permanently. By clicking on this image icon, it will load the image in the Windows native image viewer, or I could click on this right arrow and it will load the image in the Edge, which is what I'm going to show you now. There are some icons up at the top and down the left, which we are going to go over, starting with this drop down. This shows all the images that I've brought in, and I could select any image and it will take me directly there. I also have these arrow icons where I can navigate the images that way if I desire. To the right of it, I have that same edit description icon where I could click on it and rename it if needed. Or lastly, I can create the page in this scenario. I have the option of selecting the scenario and section where I want this created as a page, as well as the option to set the scale. Moving over to the left, we do have some icons here, starting with this select tool that will allow you to select the image. Underneath that, we have zoom to fit screen. This is especially useful if you are zoomed in on an image trying to get some detail. You could click zoom to fit screen and it will show you that original image. Below that, we have select a zoom area where I can select it and left click and create a little box and it will zoom in on that box. I can then again use this zoom to fit screen tool and show that full image again. We do have an overlay / compare another drawing icon, which I'm going to come back and show you in a minute. Underneath that, we have crop. This crop will again show those crosshairs on my cursor, and I could select an area that I would like to crop out of this image. Because I've selected that bottom portion to crop, it's going to pop up on this far right pane, and I can even save it as a new image. So I'm going to call it South End of 123 Abbey Road and click Save. That will save it as a new image with all of my other images as well. I'm going to come back to that 123 Abbey Road drawing and talk about these last few icons, starting with deskew, which again I'm going to come back and talk about a little bit later, but we have the option to rotate clockwise and counterclockwise at 90-degree intervals. That's not the only changes that you could do to an image. You have the option to annotate this image, put in some notes, draw arrows, and highlight certain pieces of this image. To do so, I have to click on this blue add / modify option, and that will allow me to include my notes and highlights to the drawing. I have the same undo, redo, and replicate option that I would have on a takeoff screen, but I also have now a text, arrow, highlight, and a measured line option. In order to use these, I do have to set the scale of this image first. And I could do that the same way I could on the takeoff screen by coming down and clicking scale and either calculating it based off of a measurement on this roof or selecting from this drop down a predetermined scale. I'm going to select 1/4 inch because that's what this image tells me down at the bottom and click OK. From here, I'm now going to select the text option, move my mouse over to the image, and click once to create a label or a text box. From here, I could put any important information onto this image. So for example, I could note that this is a 4x4 HVAC unit. In order to further specify, I have an arrow tool where again, once I select it and I move over to the drawing screen, I'm going to click to designate the head of the arrow and move over and click again to place the tail end of that arrow. I could change the color, the arrow size, where the arrow ends, as well as the thickness of that arrow if I choose. Moving down, we have the highlight option where I could choose to highlight these curves for even further clarification. I would just click in one corner And wherever I drag my mouse, it is going to highlight that area, and I'll left click again. I'm going to come up and do the same thing on this curve. And the last option is this measured line. Again, I'm going to select it. And let's say that I need to know how long this expansion joint is on this roof. I can line my crosshair up on the far left click once, and line up again on the far right and click it again. Now that font is extremely small, so I could come up here and change that to the largest font, and we'll see that it's about 49 feet and 6 inches. It's hidden behind that label, but I can move that label if needed. Once I've made all those changes, I have the option of canceling it all or saving it. If you want these annotations to be saved to the image, you have to come up and click commit when you are all done. If you don't, these annotations will not be saved. With that being said, I'm going to come back to our root folder by clicking on this big breadcrumb in the top left. You'll see I have all those images that I've brought in so far. A few other things that I want to show you is has to do with organizing these images. So I have the same roof, but two different wings, and I want this organized in a different view where maybe they are in their own folder. I could do that by clicking Add Folder up at the top and giving it a name. I'm just going to call it Hospital because these are wings of a hospital, and click Save. A description isn't necessary, but you can put it in if you'd like. From there, I would select the images that I want to move over to that folder, right-click on them, and click Move to Folder. I then have to select the folder that I want to move these images to, click Save, and then verify that I do in fact want to move these images to that folder by clicking Yes. Now that will remove them from this root folder, but I can come up to this folder name dropdown, and you'll see I have the name of that folder, and that number in parentheses designates how many images are in that folder. So by clicking on it, I'm now able to see both wings of this hospital in one folder. Now I do want to go back to the root folder by clicking Show Root Folder. And the last few things that I am going to show you are going to be that image overlay and that deskew function. In order to do that, I have some specific images that I would like to add in. So I'm going to click Add Images, navigate to where those are, and I can bring these in by holding Control on my keyboard, similar to what I showed you before. Once those three have loaded in, I can click Continue in the bottom right, and now I could access those images. The first thing I'm going to show you is that overlay tool. So here I have an image of a roof, and I also have the image of the plumbing that I would like included on here, because right now they are two separate images and I want to combine them. I could do so by going on whatever image I would like to be the base image, coming over to this overlay, clicking on it, and on the far right, selecting the page that I want to compare and overlay. So I'm going to select the plumbing and click compare. Now it's going to take just a second for that to pop up, but what it's going to do is it is going to have that original image now be shown in that red coloring, and the overlaid image, that plumbing, in blue. You'll notice that they have those two different colors here. I now have the option to align these a little bit better to make sure that my overlay is 100% correct. Because as I zoom in on some of this wording, you'll notice that it looks like you're looking at it through 3D glasses. So I just want to make sure that I line this up best I can. I can click Align, and it is going to instruct me to click a point on the red image, which is the base image. So I'm going to zoom in as close as I can here, and I'm going to click on this top point of this red box. Now it's going to tell me click on a point on the blue image, which corresponds to that same point on the red. So in order to line it up, I'm now going to click on the top part of that blue box and click once more. It's now going to have me redo that same exact step. I would suggest doing it on different portions of the image. So because I did it on the far right, maybe I want to find a point over on the left or the top left corner and do that point again, just for accuracy's sake. So I'm going to come up here to where I have the scale, and I'm going to just click on the top of the red and then on top of the blue. Now once I'm done, it is again going to take about a second, but you'll see it lined it up just a little bit better for me. I have the option to align it again if I want to get it picture perfect. However, once I have got it completed and aligned exactly how I need to, I can click on Save New Image and give it a name. So I could call it Overlay Complete and click Save. And that will save it as a new image with all of my other images. I still have the original mechanically attached roof. I still have the original plumbing image, but now I have the overlay, which shows both of them on top of each other. The last thing that I wanted to show you is that deskew tool. This is especially useful if you bring in an image that was scanned incorrectly and it's crooked and you want to straighten it out. I can come over to the left where I have this deskew option, click on it, and it is going to instruct me to draw a 2-point horizontal line. In this case, I'm just going to measure this top wall by drawing my 2 points, left clicking on each corner, and when I'm done, it is going to skew that back to perfectly straight. And again, I have the option to always deskew it and try to get more straight next time if I choose. Using that deskew will automatically save that as that image. The very last thing that I did want to point out is that I do have the option to create a page out of any one of these images simply by right-clicking on whatever image after I've selected it and clicking Create Page. Now this does sum up the demonstration on the background image manager and the different tools available. I'm now going to turn the time back to Tammy for some final comments.
Thank you so much, Davis. And thank you everybody for attending today. We hope you found that beneficial. Just a reminder again that we have our 3-question survey, so please answer that because we want to make sure that these webinars are beneficial to you all. Thanks for joining, everybody. Have a great day.